I'm Abhinav Kapur. I am the co-founder and CEO of Bikky. We are a customer data platform built exclusively for restaurants. We integrate with all of your in-store and off-premise channels to map the entire customer journey to give you insight into what's driving guest acquisition, retention, and churn. Now, we've got millions of guest profiles in our system, and all of that data tells us two things. First, 80% of your guests will never come back after their first visit. Second, the 20% that do come back can drive more than 60% of your revenue. Now, as an industry, we have very limited visibility into who these people actually are, right? I've seen it firsthand. My mother-in-law was a restaurant operator in New York City for over 20 years. She had a wonderfully fragmented tech stack that was great at processing orders, but never really told her anything about the people behind those orders. In our industry research, we've noticed two things. Folks try to solve this in a couple ways. They look at their loyalty program data, which is great, but it's only 10 to 15% of their customer base, or they look at sales. But sales is an output metric, right? It tells you what happened. It doesn't tell you why it happened. That's where Bikky comes in. We can give you the customer level impact of every major decision you take on the business. As an example, we work with a 60 location brand based in the Southeast. When they plugged in Bikky, they went from 10% visibility of their guests to 80% visibility. Now, this brand is thinking about opening new stores in new markets, but they had a few challenges. First, they weren't sure exactly where to open these new stores. Second, how to measure the success of those new stores. And third, how to turn these new customers in new markets into loyal guests. Bikky helped them overcome each of these challenges. In the first, we tied check-level data to demographic data to give them retention and frequency by age, income, occupation, marital status, and gender. So now they're opening new stores in trade areas that overlap with their best performing guests. On the second, we can track how many new butts they're putting in seats every single day at the location level. So they can benchmark new customer acquisition for these new stores relative to the rest of their core portfolio. Are they actually doing a good job of building a brand in new markets? Do they need to invest more money in local store marketing to acquire new customers? Instead of just looking at sales and wondering what's happening and if it's working, they can go directly to the guest level data to get the answer. On the third, we look across their entire customer base, so we know how long it takes for their best performing guests to come back after their first, second, and third order. So when they go into these new markets, they can craft engagement strategies to incentivize guests to come back at the right cadence that maps to their best performing guests. I'm proud to say that just 1 month after full rollout with Bikky, this brand was able to achieve double-digit comp growth. Now, the platform we are building is becoming the foundation across the entire organization, marketing, ops, real estate, finance, culinary, to make better data-driven decisions that impact every facet of the guest lifecycle. At the end of the day, if 80% of your guests are never coming back, you deserve to know why. If 20% of them are more than half your revenue, you deserve to know who they are and what they care about. At Bikky, we're helping you answer each of these questions, taking your customer data to improve the one thing that matters the most in this industry, your relationship with your guests. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right, thanks, Abhi.
Of course.
So first thing I want to know is, with all the data out there, how are you actually pulling it into your system?
Yeah, great question. So as I said, we integrate with point of sale, payments, loyalty, online ordering, Wi-Fi reservations. Wherever there's a breadcrumb of guest data, we either have direct API integrations with those platforms, or in the cases where we don't have an API integration, we set up a way to just get a data dump on a regular basis and load it into our system. From there, we have a customer matching algorithm that says, is this a new guest? If so, based on their credit card or their phone number or email, if they're a new guest, we create a new profile for them. If at any time in the future, we recognize the same credit card, email address, or phone number in our system, instead of just treating that as a separate transaction, we do the deduplication on the back end to ensure that, again, we're as complete and holistic as possible in counting individual unique customers.
Cool. Abby, can you talk a little bit about who's using your product and any additional insights they've gotten from your product?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most surprising thing about this, because again, this started as a marketing specific tool, and I think the most surprising thing for us has been how applicable leveraging this data has been across, again, not just marketing, but operations, real estate, culinary. So a great example is culinary is thinking about the success of new menu items or new LTOs. Typically a brand will look at sales and they say, oh great, it achieved 3% of mix. I guess that's good, or maybe not. But instead, with our product, the culinary team can say, okay, we launched a chicken LTO last quarter. Here's how many new customers it actually acquired. Here's how many existing customers switched to that LTO. And here's how the frequency of each of those guests changed 30, 60, 90 days after they bought that menu item. And then they can use that to evaluate what they're going to launch in the subsequent quarter when they do another big seasonal menu push. So that's been just really cool to see, again, the applicability across functions.
So I'd like to understand, what is your secret sauce versus the others in your space approaching things in a similar way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think CDP is probably the most overhyped and also most confusing term in the restaurant tech industry today. I think I was talking to somebody today and I was like, there's 5 definitions, and they're like, there's probably more. And I'm like, that's fair. I think where a lot of CDPs are positioning themselves in the market today is around what I was saying earlier, being a marketing specific tool, helping you identify known customers and figuring out how to build automations to re-engage those customers and drive greater frequency. Where we've really focused our positioning and specialization has been on the analytics piece. Again, taking decisions not just in marketing's prerogative, but outside of marketing's prerogative. To perfect example, we have one brand who we map all their menu items based on how many new customers order the menu item over the past year and what percentage of customers come back within 90 days after ordering that menu item. There's one item in the top right that is better than everything. The PMix can tell you that, that's fine. But the insight here was on the retention side. And what the CEO told me is, he goes, you just defined my pricing strategy for the next year. I was like, what do you mean? Well, he goes, instead of just raising the prices of the lower performing, lower retaining menu items by 5-6%, I'm just going to change the price of that one menu item in the top right by a few pennies. And I guarantee you that that's going to drive more profitability than trying to do wholesale menu price increases across the rest of the menu.
Wow.
And I think that's, again, been the interesting thing is like, there's use cases for this data that we're just scratching the surface of now. And we're excited to obviously see how that continues to unfold. So.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great.
Great.
Awesome, thanks for your time.